We're building soil in our high tunnel. So we got this high tunnel put in about a year ago, and we've done some things to it since then. We've learned some lessons. One of the first things that I did was put some comfrey in here. And the reason I did that is because comfrey has a whole lot of uses. I'm hoping to sell some root cuttings and some plants eventually, but I haven't done that yet. But one of the main reasons besides that, besides just being able to sell them, is because it's really great for soil building. In order to put this high tunnel here, we need to get this ground as level as possible. So we hired a dozer to come over here and get this as level as possible for us. Now, one of the things that we made a mistake with is just south of here, we had them scrape off that topsoil and put here. And in hindsight, I wouldn't have done that. I would have just left it be, you know, the clay soil that they had here, because in order to level it up, it took that topsoil and it spread it all around here. And that left this area over here just south of it kind of bare. So I'm working on building that soil up, and we've talked about that just a bit. I planted some winter wheat over here, and it's done pretty well. It's all died back. All that's going to create biomass and topsoil eventually. In here, even though they put the topsoil in here, it still didn't make the soil in here very wonderful, but the comfrey can help me with that. So there's a lot of people who use comfrey for chop and drop. In addition to this comfrey here, I've got some weeds that have developed. So here's some wild daisy. I don't really want it spreading. There's also some horseweed and a few other things over here. What I'm doing with this comfrey is cutting it back and then putting it here in this row, and all that's going to rot. And the comfrey is supposed to have a deep taproot. It's supposed to go down really deep and mine for nutrients. I don't know if it does that or not, but it does produce a lot of biomass, especially here in the high tunnel, because it stays warm in here. It seems like I probably have gotten 2 cuttings from this already, and I probably could have gotten more. A lot of it's been flowering already, and I could have cut it before it started flowering. Then it would have kept on growing more and more. Because it stops growing, it doesn't grow quite as much after it flowers. But I like to use my pocket knife, one of my handiest tools on the homestead. I like that it has the pliers. I always have a pair of pliers and wire cutters, but most of the time I just use the pocket knife on here. I just cut it back and then throw it on the ground. So this is one of the smaller ones up here actually. I've got some that's smaller than this, and I've got many that are much larger. But I just grab a hold of it here, as much of it as I can get in my hand, and then I cut below that. Then I take these leaves and I just toss them here in the middle of this row, and that's going to provide some mulch to have some weed suppression in here, and it's also going to rot and build up the soil here as well. So I just keep on doing that until I get to the end of the row. This ends up taking me a good long while actually. I've got so many plants. I've probably got 300, 400 plants through here. But while I'm doing this, I also pull up weeds as well. So there's a lot of stuff in here that I don't want growing. And one of the great things about comfrey that I'm using anyway, this is Bocking 4 variety. One of the great things about it is it's sterile. You only can grow it and expand from crown cuttings and from root cuttings. So it's going to stay here, and it's not going to spread where I don't want it to spread. Eventually, especially if I left this all alone, it would probably grow big enough to drown out the rest of these weeds. There's actually some strawberries over here as well, do you see? But I get some of these weeds out of here, and ultimately, we're just gonna have comfrey over here. So again, this one's already gone to flower. Do you see that? The bees love it, but it doesn't produce any seeds. So again, I gather the whole thing here as much as I can in one hand, and then I cut it back. And then I take it and just toss it out here in the center. So this would be a whole lot faster if I didn't do the weeding at the same time. If you have a high tunnel, I think comfrey is a good thing to grow in it because after I get this soil over here built up the way I want it to, and all this comfrey is doing the way I want it to do, then I'll probably start taking these leaves and putting them somewhere else. So it's going to build up the soil not only over here, this is where I'm starting, it's going to build up the soil all throughout the high tunnel. I think comfrey is a good thing to grow on your homestead, especially if you have space. It's got value to yourself, and you can also resell it as well. Some of these cuttings you can probably get you know, up to $1 each for the root cuttings. Even more if you sell the crowns and the whole plant. So that's money for you if you want to make money on your homestead. Got lots of uses for yourself, medicinal, soil building, stuff like that, for fodder, for animals. So something I recommend. Again, we do a new video every Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday. Check us out then. If you've hit that notification bell on the subscribe button, then you won't have to worry about that. You'll get alerts, so please do that. Would really appreciate that. Appreciate all your encouragement. Until next time, thanks. So as you can see, I got finished. It ended up taking me probably an hour, hour and a half or so from start to finish. That's including doing the weeding. Really, there's not a whole lot of weeds that are here because the Comfrey, what it does is it chokes out all the other weeds around it. So there are a few, but the ones that are here are the ones that are really long and lanky and leggy, so they're not really much of a problem. And I did leave, you can see some that are still back here if you look back in the distance. I did leave some of the smaller Comfreys. It's not flowering or anything. It'll keep on growing. Again, I do recommend this very much. You can see behind me right here between the strawberries and the Comfrey, you see that there's a whole stack of this Comfrey here. And what that'll do is there's still some weeds here in the row between. It'll suppress those weeds, and then it'll also rot and build up the soil. So again, a really great, wonderful thing. It does take a little bit of time, but building soil is something that does take time, takes years really, and I'm okay with that because this soil is going to be some really great stuff whenever it's all said and done. I'll probably end up here in a few years having to put some more plastic on the high tunnel. It's only supposed to last 4 or 5 years. By the time we do that, all of this soil in here will be super rich and it'll be really great for us growing in, and we'll be old pros at it by then. And I hope you're sticking around with us, because when you do that, you're going to see all of this process from the very beginning till when we get good at it. We're not really great at it yet, but you're here with us and we really appreciate that encouragement, and we want you to stick around. So if you haven't already, subscribed and hit that notification bell. Thanks.